Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to show you how to do the Superflip pattern on any twisty puzzle, be it a 3x3, Pyraminx, Megaminx, higher order cube like the 5x5 or 7x7, or even a 13x13 or the Gigaminx. Basically, the Superflip is just a pattern where you flip around every single edge on a cube, leaving the centers and corners in place. If you have a bigger cube like a 5x5 though, you can do the Superflip multiple times, making it look even cooler. So I'm about to go through one cube at a time and explain the easiest possible method for doing the Superflip. I recommend you know at least some basic 3x3 notation like F or U2 or R prime, but I'll try and explain it in a way where you don't need to know anything. This is actually my favorite Rubik's Cube pattern because it looks so cool on so many different puzzles and has lots of fun variations. So let's get started. Now first up is the basic 3x3. This is actually one of the easiest cubes to do the Superflip on because you only have to remember two moves. Now you can start on whatever side you want and it won't change the result. I just like to start right here. And those two moves are M prime U. Now let's back up real quick and explain what that means. So the first move is M prime, which just means moving this middle layer right here in this direction like that. So you can do it the way that I do it by pushing with your back finger, kind of like that. Or if you're not comfortable with that, you can also accomplish the same thing by doing two moves on the right side, just like that. And then the next move is a U, so just turning the top layer clockwise like that. And so once you've got your M prime U, all you have to do is repeat that 4 times. So I've already done it once here, and we can do it a second time, M prime U, a third time, and a fourth time. And that's the basic sequence that we'll use for the Superflip. So now that we've done that sequence of 4 M prime U's, what we want to do is rotate the cube. Now the technical name for this rotation is X, Y prime, but you don't have to remember that. Basically from where you finish the sequence, all you want to do is rotate the cube like this. So you can think of it as keeping this left corner in the same spot while rotating the cube counterclockwise. And now, once you have the cube in this new position, what we're going to do is repeat that sequence of 4 M prime U's. So we're going to do M prime U, M prime U, M prime U, M prime U 4 times. And then we're going to do the same thing one more time. So rotate the whole cube around this corner and then repeat the sequence of 4 M prime U's. Just like that. And you have now done the Superflip on your 3x3. As a quick review, all you have to do is M prime U 4 times, rotate, another M prime U 4 times, rotate, and another M prime U 4 times. If you're fast, you can even do it in under 5 seconds. And if you want to undo the pattern, you can just do the exact same thing. So start on whatever side you want and just do M prime U 4 times, rotate, and repeat. And there we go. Now next up, you can actually do the Superflip on any n by n cube bigger than a 2x2. So 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, whatever you want. However, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it on an even layer puzzle like a 4x4 because it'll end up looking exactly the same as on the 3x3. So we're going to skip over even layered puzzles because you do it the exact same way as the next smallest odd puzzle. So starting off with the 5x5, the way that you do the Superflip on any bigger cube is just by repeating the basic 3x3 Superflip multiple times. So if you've skipped ahead to this part in the video, you're going to need to know how to do this first. Now when you look at a 5x5, there are 2 different ways that you can turn it like a 3x3. You can either turn just the outer layers like this, or you can turn just the inner layers like this. So what we're going to do is first just pretend that it's a 3x3 on the outer layers like this, and just do a basic Superflip pattern. So our M primes are going to be like this, and our U's are going to be like this. So you just repeat that 4 times, and rotate, repeat that 4 times, and rotate, repeat that 4 times, exactly like you do on a 3x3. So now that we have our outer layer Superflip complete, all we're going to do is one more Superflip, but this time on the inner layers. So our M primes are going to look like this, and our U's are going to look like this. So M prime U, M prime U, M prime U, M prime U, and rotate and repeat. Exactly like you did it the first time, except this time on a different set of layers. And there we go. Our 5x5 Superflip is now complete. And to undo the pattern on the 5x5, you can again basically do the same thing that you did to make it, except you have to make sure that you undo the inner layer before you undo the outer layer. So instead of starting like this, that'll scramble up your cube, you have to start like this. So just do the pattern like you did before on the inner layer, and then once you've got that part solved, you can do it again on the outer layer, and that will solve your cube. Finally, I think any higher order n by n puzzle should be pretty self-explanatory now, but I will go over the 7x7 very quickly. So on this cube, we have 3 different ways that we can turn it like a 3x3, either with 1 outer layer, or 2 outer layers, or with 3 outer layers. So we're going to start off just like we did in the 5x5 and use these outer layers here to do a normal 3x3 Superflip. So M primes like this, U's like this. Repeat that 4 times and just keep going until we have that complete. Now we can move down to using the 2 outer layers like this. So our M primes are going to look like this, and our U's are going to look like this. This one's a little bit tricky. Just make sure you're always turning just those 2 outer layers. There we go. And now we can do our third and final super flip by only turning the very inner layers. So our M primes are going to look like this, and our U's are going to look like this. It can get a little bit tricky again to only turn the right layers, but just make sure you're turning that inner one. And there we go. 3 super flips on top of each other gives you a 7x7 super flip, which just looks incredible. Again, if you're undoing it, make sure and use these inner layers first, followed by the next layer, followed by the outer layer. Now, if you've watched to this point, it should now be pretty clear how to do the super flip on any cube bigger than a 7x7. So just for fun, I'm going to be doing it on my 13x13. You start off by doing it on the outer layer like this, just a normal 3x3 super flip. And then you just move on to the next layer down. So the next super flip would start like this. And then you just repeat doing every single layer all the way down to the middle. And there we go. After 6 iterations of the basic super flip, each on a different layer, we now have my absolute favorite pattern on my absolute favorite cube. Doesn't that just look incredible? Next up is the Pyraminx super flip. This is such an underrated pattern because it's so easy to do, by far the easiest one in this video, and there's lots of fun variations that you can add to it. This pattern consists of 3 moves that you have to do 3 times, and that's it. Those 3 moves are R, L prime, U. Let's do that one more time real quick. The R means that you turn the right side upward like this. The L prime means that you turn the left side upward like this. And the U means that you turn the top side clockwise like this. Now that we've done it 1 time, we just have to repeat it 2 more times. So there's 2, and there's 3, and there is our Pyraminx super flip. Now on its own, it looks pretty cool, but it can look a lot cooler. Now the first and easiest modification that you can do is just turning each tip once in the same direction. So just go around to each tip on the cube and turn it the same direction. And there we go. Now we have this other cool looking pattern that has the same colors on the inside and kind of this cool triangle on the outside. By the way, this reminds me of a fun variation you can do to the super flip on a 3x3. Basically just do the super flip like normal and then twist all of the corners in one direction. Obviously, you're going to have to cheat a little bit to get it done. You can use an algorithm to twist most of them. You're going to have to twist at least 1 in the end though. Depending on your cube, it may be easier or harder, but this is the super flip twist. Anyway, that was just a fun tangent. There's also another fun variation you can do on the Pyraminx where instead of twisting all of the tips, you actually twist all of these center pieces in here, which of course requires an algorithm as to not mess up all the edge pieces. That algorithm is R, U, R prime, U. So that means turning the right side upward, the top side clockwise, the right side downward, and then the top side clockwise again. You just have to do those moves twice like we just did, and then you can repeat on every single tip of the cube. So again, R, U, R prime, U, R, U, R prime, U, rotate to the next tip, and do it again. And then once you've done that, you can move to the 4th and final tip. There should be a total of 4 places where you repeat these moves twice. And there we go. Here is the extra cool version of the super flip on the Pyraminx. Now to undo this variation, you could just do the same 4 moves, R, U, R prime, U, except that you'd have to repeat them 4 times for every tip instead of the normal 2. So instead, it's easier to just modify it a little bit and make it R, U prime, R prime, U prime. So just switch the directions of all the U's and then repeat that on every tip. And soon enough, you should be back to the super flip. There we go. And of course, undoing the super flip itself is as easy as doing the same moves that you did to make it. So just R, L prime, U, R, L prime, U, R, L prime, U. And finally, we have the Megaminx. This is quite the interesting puzzle to do the super flip on because traditionally the advice has just been, well, scramble it up and solve it into the super flip. So fortunately, just for this video, I've come up with a much easier, much faster method of doing it. It only takes me about 30 seconds, and it should be really easy to remember. Now, because this is a little bit more complicated, I will expect you to at least be familiar with basic 3x3 notation, and just know that whenever I'm holding the cube like this will be the U side, this will be the F side, this will be the R side, and this will be the L side. Also remember that a clockwise double move, like an R2, isn't the same thing as a counterclockwise double move like an R2 prime, because the Megaminx has 5 sides. So we're going to be using a very simple algorithm that flips a total of 8 edges on the cube. The more complicated part is that we're going to have to use some setup moves in order for this algorithm to flip every single edge on the cube. But first, I'd recommend that you try out this algorithm all by itself. Again, it's very easy. It just goes R, U, R prime, F. And you just repeat that 7 times. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as you can see, that flipped a total of 8 different edges. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just repeating that algorithm all over the cube like it was in the 3x3. Instead, we're going to need to do some setup moves before and after the algorithm. So let's go back to a solved cube by just repeating that again. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to choose two sides to be our top and bottom, like this. And just know that we're never going to be executing the algorithm around either of these two sides. Instead, we're going to be executing the algorithm in the middle in 5 different places. So we're going to kind of rotate around these top and bottom like I'm doing right here. And for each of these kind of adjacent pairs of faces, we're going to be doing the algorithm once. So we'll start off by doing it here with this being U and this being F. And then we will rotate around our top and bottom. And this will be the next place we do it with this being U and this being F. So after doing it 2 times, we'll do it then 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. So I hope that made sense. Otherwise, just follow along and you'll see what I mean. So like I said, we're going to start with these two sides facing us. And before we do our algorithm, we're first going to do 2 setup moves. So we're going to do R2 prime, L prime. And now we can begin our algorithm by repeating this sequence 7 times. Just like that. And now you can undo those setup moves with R2 and L. Now watch out because this is the important part. We're now going to rotate the entire cube to the next position, just like I showed you before, just like this, rotating around the top and bottom layers, just 1 position over. Now this is going to be the next spot we're going to do our algorithm. First, we got to do the setup moves of R2 prime and L prime, and then do the algorithm. Again, we now undo those setup moves with R2 and L, and then we do the exact same thing to rotate, just like that. Now we can do our next setup move, R2 prime, L prime, and do our algorithm again. And remember that we're going to do this a total of 5 times. Once again, undo those setup moves, rotate, redo the setup moves, and then do our algorithm again, just like this. Undo our setup moves, rotate 1 last time, redo our setup moves, and do the algorithm for the last time. And then we can undo our setup moves like this, and we have now super flipped the Megaminx. Again, it seems pretty complicated doing that whole sequence 5 different times, but I was able to do it in under 30 seconds. So now that we've finally made it, let's have some fun by twisting all the corners and making it a super flip twist. And by the way, of course, you can always just undo the super flip pattern by just doing the same sequence of moves that you did to make it. So doing the setup moves, the algorithm, undoing the setup moves, and then rotating the cube. And there we go. That's a nice looking pattern. And of course, just like you can expand the 3x3 Superflip to the 5x5, you can also expand the Megaminx Superflip to the Gigaminx or any higher order minx for that matter. You just have to do a normal Megaminx Superflip using that entire sequence I just showed you and treating the outer layers like a Megaminx, like this. And then you do the same thing, but on the inner layers like this. So to get started, for example, we'd choose our top and bottom, do our setup moves, and begin our algorithm, and repeat. Ta-da! And that is the Gigaminx Superflip. Incredible. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial on making the Superflip on pretty much any puzzle imaginable. I really hope you all enjoyed and learned something. Let me know by hitting like if you did, and let me know down in the comments if you want to see more cool pattern tutorials like this in the future. And I'll see you guys next time.